Hey, y'all. So the Friday that just passed, I was hanging out on Truth Wanted, 7 p.m. Central Time every Friday. I was hanging out with the homie Objectively Dan, and somebody called in to talk about why they weren't so sure that the separation of religion and government was an important idea. Now, during that call, I ended up getting a little hot because of something particularly incorrect that they said. And you should go watch that. It was kind of fun. But I wanted to extend this to our audience here today. If you aren't sure about why this is such an important issue and why it should be at the core of every government worldwide, call us today. If you have any argument whatsoever as to why governments should be religious and should make religious decisions when governing, call us today. Now, here at the ACA, we're based in the US, and we have the First Amendment to our Constitution. But I've talked a lot about on this show how secularism is a global fight, and not just a fight for atheists, but for all people. Whether it's Nigeria, Iran, India, here in the US, all over the world, we can see the horrible things that happen when religion gets involved with government. So now's your chance, folks. If you disagree with the separation of religion and government, call us, because the show is starting right now. Welcome, everyone. Today is June 23rd, 2024, and I am your host, Secular Rarity. And joining me today is my friend, the man who has been spreading corruption in the Ummah for over a decade, Armin Navabi. What's up, man?
Hey, I miss doing this here. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's always good, man. I am great. I'm excited. I've had that heat and intensity rolling with me since Friday, and I'm just ready to bring it here. And I mean, you know firsthand some of the stuff that you cover, all the terrible religion and government kind of intertwining and whatnot that happens all over. And I'm excited to share that with you today, man. I hope somebody calls in and tries to give us any reason whatsoever as to why they think government should be religious like that. I haven't heard a single good one, kind of like Armin. Okay. And you tell me if I'm off base here, man. Kind of like how I haven't heard a single good argument ever for the existence of God. It's weird how those two things are, correlated like that. What do you think, man?
Yeah. Well, today it might be, it's different. Today I see some people that want to preach the gospel to us. So today we have to keep an open mind. Just because you haven't heard a good argument yet, it doesn't mean that one does not exist.
That's true. That's fair.
Haven't heard it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Look, that's good, Armin, because I was getting a little hot. I was coming out, I was trying to throw some punches. You're right. Look, hey guys, Armin and I are going to give you a fair shot. We're going to give you a fair shake. Give us a call. Tell us what you got to say. We're going to listen to it. But expect pushback if we have pushback, and answer our questions. We are here to know. If you've got a good reason, give me a call and I'll join your side and start fighting and host shows on that, I guess. Go ahead.
It's also possible that we've been hearing plenty of good arguments. We're just too stubborn. And we just want to sin, and if we believe in God, that will get in the way. And we're just so much in love with sin that when we see good arguments for the existence of God, our minds are so biased against them that we have to come up with ways to deny them. And that's the reason why we don't find any good valid arguments for the existence of God. That could also be.
That is true.
Yeah.
I tried sin once a couple years ago when I was on vacation.
It's amazing.
It was. Honestly. Yeah, I was surprised. I'll be in the Discord after the show. Come talk to me. I'll tell you about that. No, anyway, we here at the ACA want you to know that the Atheist Experience is a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Definitely all good things. And again, if you're not a fan of any of those, if you're just like, man, critical thinking is bullshit, just call us, because I'll definitely explain to you why I think that's so wrong. Go ahead, man. Do you have something else?
No. Have you had any call like that before? Somebody calling in and like,
not yet. We're on YouTube, man. So it's just like, I just expect that there's at least one, right? I just expect there's at least one person out there who's like, nah, man, thinking critically about stuff is ridiculous. Like, just go with it. But I mean, it's possible, right? It's got to be out there.
I mean, I have heard philosophers, some say that. So thinking like, you know what? Yeah, no. I've heard some philosophers explaining that, not all beliefs are not supposed to reflect reality. They're just meant to make you feel certain ways. And we're like picking, so the utility of beliefs is not necessarily having a worldview that reflects reality. Is to, if it gives you the emotions, the utility of positive your beliefs are positive feelings, and if it fulfills that, then why do you need to critically?
There has to be at the basis. There would have to be a correlation with reality, because otherwise, like, the likelihood of you continuing to. But the likelihood of you continuing to survive would be so dramatically. Well, hang on. We're too early into this show to start doing this. Yes. Hang on. Okay, we've got some good calls that are lining up, and we've got a lot of open lines, guys. So give us a call. The number's on the screen. You can do the tiny URL from your computer. But before we get to those wonderful calls, I am going to give you the results of last week's Share Your Experience question of the week. Okay, so last week, the prompt was what not to say if you meet Jesus, okay? So number 3 from X Million, don't say to Jesus, I thought I saw you coming in the clouds, but it was just pareidolia. That was pretty good. That's pretty good. It's like, I thought that was you, Jesus, but it was a bunny rabbit. My bad. Number 2, Single Digit Driven says, what not to say if you meet Jesus. Jesus, you truly are the holiest man I've ever met. That's pretty good. I think I like to believe. Go ahead.
I think he would appreciate that. Like, he's not like, I was gonna say,
he's gotta have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I think he would be like, that's funny, that's pretty cool. Like, he would laugh, and
he's the physical incarnation of the divine being that knows all. He has to have a sense of humor, right? Is that not it? Look,
I mean, he did curse.
Go ahead.
He did curse a tree for not having fruits, so I don't know.
He's got a temper. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing. He flipped the tables. He whipped some people. Yeah. He's got a temper, but that doesn't mean he's not humorous, right? If you're Jesus can't tell jokes, I'll be honest, I don't want to follow that Jesus. Number one answer from last week. QC, things not to say to Jesus. We always thought you would be taller and blonde and blue-eyed. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Like, you holding a picture of Jesus from like some European cathedral, and then just kind of going back and forth and being like, you look a little different than your profile pic, man. It's all right, cool. Go ahead.
Have you seen Korean Jesus?
No.
Have you seen the statue of Korea?
No.
Oh, no?
I never knew Jesus was Korean. That's fascinating. I didn't.
Oh, Jesus is on the cross in Korea. They're Korean. Wow. They're like, he has Korean face.
You know what? I think that may be one of the strongest arguments for if we could somehow prove that Jesus was actually Korean in that area of the world at that time. Yeah. That might prove.
So see, this is what you atheists don't get. This is what this is what goes back to the original point. You're like, you keep using critical thinking skills, and you think that that's what everyone's supposed to do, right? But again, people just want to feel good. That's the whole point of life. So if they make it white, where people are white, or if they make it Korean, where people are Korean, it's because it just works with people. They could relate to it more. It's like it reflects what they are comfortable with, so that they could build the emotional bridge with their deity. That's the whole point of all.
Okay, so let me say this, and I don't think this is pushback. Okay, let me say this: if a believer in any God whatsoever wants to call Armin and I today, and when we pick up your phone call, and we bring you on and you say, hey guys, look, I'm just telling you right here, right now, my belief in God has nothing to do with the truth and reality. It's just all warm fuzzies. I'm going to say, hey, no worries, man. Have a good one. Like, I still think you're wrong, but you can do that. If you want to call in today and tell me that your belief in God has absolutely no connection to truth, I'm here for it, man. Can't wait for it. But Armin,
can somebody correct me in the comments after the show? Didn't William James kind of said something like, wasn't this his whole philosophy about faith and all? Like, if somebody could correct me, like in the comments after the show, I would look.
Yeah, please. But go on. Please tell us, guys. Yeah, please let us know. I mean, I know that's like that is kind of the whole like Pascal's wager. That is like Pascal's wager, where he basically eventually just says like, yeah, you just fake it till you make it. And like, just do it because it makes you feel good. But okay, good. They're never going to let us back. We have another prompt. Folks. This time in the comment section below the video, okay, what we want you to do is create the next God, okay? Your choice, you decide, give us the next deity that we have to disprove to people and talk about. So Armin, you first. I want to hear. What are your thoughts? The next God. What is it?
I have two gods that I usually go to. Okay, one of them I stole. One of them is my own creation. I don't know if I have time to go through both, but do you want one of them is a god-eating penguin, and the one that is my creation is the farting turtle.
And what does the turtle fart?
It's
when the turtle farts, it creates universes, right?
Yeah, you want to go that one because the farting turtle is a god that demonstrates the importance of burden of proof, and making unfalsifiable claims. The god-eating penguin is more a response to people who say that if you imagine God, there should be a God, or people who say, I have faith, therefore it's real, and also a good response to presuppositionalists as well. So, but both of these guys serve different purposes. But let's go with the farting turtle because that was faster to go through, right? So, for people who say that you cannot show that God doesn't exist, like they try to shift the burden of proof. We have other people that have created similar. We have Russell's teapot. We have Carl Sagan's dragon in the garage, and we also have the flying spaghetti monster, the invisible pink unicorn. We have plenty of examples, but mine is the best one. Okay, it's better than Carl Sagan's dragon. It's better at all of this. Okay, because it's very effectively demonstrates this point, and it's also a farting turtle, which is a lot more memorable and fun, adorable, right? So imagine a giant, massive turtle that is so huge that when it farts, it starts a black hole that it makes a wormhole into another universe. And imagine if this giant turtle existed in a parallel universe to ours, meaning that there is no way that we could have access to it. There is no empirical evidence of its existence, but it also means that there's no way for you to be able to deny its existence because it exists in a parallel universe.
Right.
So imagine if our Big Bang, the Big Bang that started this universe, started because this turtle farted in a parallel universe.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to see turtles in the live chat and fart symbols as well. Thank you so much. Okay?
I would like to say, Armin, in the process of you explaining that, I did double, triple check just to make sure. And in fact, it is true. Turtles do fart. And according to this thing that just pulled up at the top, I'm not even kidding you. The very next sentence is, in fact, farting is an important part for the turtle survival. So I just want to say that the basis of this conception that you have seems to be rooted in fact and reality. So, that should prove its existence to everybody. I'm baffled why people wouldn't believe it.
But also to show how important this new God that I made is, I have to actually I should have this. I should have this ready next time. I should send this to your team to show it next time, because this has caught on my Persian channel, Jamhuri Bi Khodayan, so much that somebody tattooed this farting turtle on their hand. Again, I'm not kidding you. I created this god. This is my invention, and so many people love this concept so much. Then somebody tattooed a fart, and I thought it would. At first I thought it won't look good, but once they showed me the design, it's gorgeous. It's a very beautiful tattoo. Have you ever made a god that somebody felt compelled to tattoo it anywhere on their body, Elliot?
You know,
because that's the level of achievement that I have.
You know what? You got me beat, man. I'm good. Game recognized game, man. You got me there. Well, folks, if you believe
I can't prepare for this question. I can't. This just was a random question, right? I have an answer, and I have an answer that somebody tattooed it on their body. That's how prepared I came for this question.
Again, I fully believe if that right there doesn't show you the truth. I mean, people don't just get tattoos, for things that aren't true. Like, they're deeply held beliefs, man. If that doesn't prove the existence of this universe farting turtle, I gotta say, you're not. You might be thinking too critically. That's all. No, but seriously, folks, get your answers. If you think you've got one better, get your answers in the comments section below this video, and check us out next week, because we always reveal the top 3, and one of them could be yours. Okay, Armin, we're here to take calls. We're here to hear about God.
Oh, really?
Do you want to hear about God? I'm ready.
Well, I mean, I have to.
Yes, right. You are right. You are obligated. You actually can't say no. No, you cannot. Yeah.
Because I was going to walk away, but
no, it wasn't a choice. Yeah, I presented it like it was a.
Okay.
So, all right, so we're gonna take a. We're gonna grab Jasmine. Her out in Ohio is a theist and wants to tell us a little bit about Jesus Christ. Well, hey, Jasmine, you were chatting with Secular Rarity and Armin Navabi. What is up?
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hello.
I'm great.
What you got for us today? You say it says you think everybody's searching for God. What do you mean by that?
So, God is love. God is good, as He tells us in the scriptures, in the Word. God is I am who am. God is existence himself. He is not a divine being, but he is being himself.
Mm-hmm.
God is.
Can I jump in just real quick, yeah. Jasmine? I'm gonna let you keep going. I just want to at least get on one level. If I came to you and I said, for instance, like, I don't know, Flarbelboof is existence, would that really help you understand what that word was that I just said?
No. No.
Cool. So I'm still a little confused as to what you mean when you're talking about God, because currently I don't feel like the descriptions you've given me have done much in terms of actually defining the characteristics of this being. Now, don't worry, we're going to keep going. I think Armin's got something to throw out at you, but I just wanted to give you kind of an understanding of where I'm starting off. Right now, it just sounds like to me what you're saying is God's a pretty flowery concept, which, okay, cool. And if you want to say that concept is like what motivates you in life to be a good person, okay, cool. That concept exists. But if you're then gonna say, no, it's actually a physical being that like came to Earth in the form of a human who, died and resurrected, I'd have some issues. But give me just a second. I know I shouted a bunch at you. I think Armin had something, or do you want to give it back to Jasmine, ma'am?
No. So when you say God is existence, do you mean that everything that exists is God itself? Like all of existence is God? Is that what you mean?
No, not everything. God, we're all within God. We are all within existence. We are existing.
Okay, so we're all part. So we're all. So you said no, but then you said something that seemed like then the answer is yes. So you're saying everything that exists is part of God,
Yes, yes.
right? Everything that exists.
All things
okay.
in the Word, and in the Word, God tells us that all things were created through and for Jesus, to Him, through Him.
That's not my
question.
That's not my question. That's not my question. That's not my question. Okay. My question is that is everything that exists. Okay, God is like a category of things, and everything that exists is in that category. So we're part of God. My pen is part of God. My cup is part of God. You know, my dog is part of God. This mosquito in front of me is part of God. Everything is part of God, right? Part of it.
It's all created. So I can word it better, and that's from the Word. It's all things were created through and for Jesus, who is.
So you were wrong. So when you say God is existence, so these are contradictory claims, right? First you said God is existence, and now you're making it seem like God created these things and is separated, and God itself is separate from His creation. So because we want to see, me and Elliot, when you're making a claim, we have to, if we want to evaluate whether or not this claim is true, we first have to understand what you're referring to. And when you're speaking, you're being very vague, and you seem to be saying things that are contradictory, right? So is God an entity that created everything that is not God, or everything that is part of this God? So do you understand that these are two separate claims that you're making?
You can scrap the verbiage I used before. It's created through and for God. It's created through.
Okay, so then your first claim. Okay, through and for. That means your first claim is wrong. When you said God is existence, God is not existence. God created existence.
Yeah.
So these are things that were created through God. So they're so existence is separate from God.
Go ahead, Jasmine.
Yes?
I did not say that. I did not say that God created existence. I said that God is existence. God is I am who am.
Right, but
who lives,
I will go back to the second.
to come.
Jasmine, just a second though, because if what you're saying is that the ladybug, that the oak tree, that the cup and the pen that Armin was holding a second ago, if you're saying that all of that is a part of your understanding of what God is, then that I think would be on the side of God as existence. But if what you're saying, which it sounds like this is really what you mean, if what you're saying is all of these things were created through God, all of these came to be because of this God's existence, it sounds like these are two separate categories. You have God and then other things that exist. And if existence encompasses all of that, God and existence can't be the same thing. Does that make sense?
No, not quite.
Okay, so if existence is understood as a circle that encompasses absolutely everything that does, can, has, or would exist, and part of those things, one of those categories is God, and another one of those categories is not God, but created from God. Do you see why God isn't the same as the overarching circle of existence? Because there's two different categories that both fall under the label exist, and those categories are separate from each other.
So Jasmine, are you with us?
Go ahead. Yes, I am.
What we're trying to do is trying to make you speak more clearly, because everything you said is, to be honest, a bunch of mumbo jumbo that is vague, and it doesn't really define what you're talking about, right? And it's really not, what you're saying is not really worth that much when it's so vague. And this is why we have such a big problem with religious language. It all sounds very poetic, but it's absolutely useless because of the vagueness of it. And we can't even begin to talk to you because you haven't, the way you speak, it's not even clear what we're talking about. And it's very interesting to me that people find this convincing at all, because it doesn't even begin to make a claim. You know, people usually make a claim that we understand what it is, and then after that, they fail at proving the claim or coming up with enough evidence for it to be logical for us to believe in it. But this, vague statements that you're making, it even fails at making a claim to begin with, let alone providing any arguments for it. Like we can't even show how the claims are wrong because the claim hasn't even been made. Do you understand? And that's the problem with making such flowery, vague language. Go on.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I wasn't making a claim. I was stating who God states he is. It's not a claim.
It's a claim.
But do you believe
Jasmine,
that?
that's a claim. That is actually a claim. So you're saying, look at the way Jasmine, look how contradictory. Jasmine, hold on. Jasmine, hold on. Look the lack of clarity. Look how the way you speak and see how contradictory it is, right? You're saying I wasn't making a claim. I'm telling you who God is or what God is. Okay, that is a claim, right? You're calling into the show to say something, which is make a statement that is a claim, and the whole point of this show is to evaluate whether that claim is true or not. And you haven't said anything worthy of us considering because you haven't said anything at all. I mean, do you want to make an actual claim that could be evaluated?
But humans, so we have hardened hearts, and we don't have eyes to see and ears to hear the truth. So
that is a natural, Jasmine. That doesn't mean anything.
I don't see.
No. We have hardened hearts.
Hang on, just a second, Jasmine. I muted you for just a second. I don't like to mute. Okay, so I'm gonna bring you back here in just a second. Okay, but I do want to point that out, and I think Armin was right to come at that response so quickly. Okay, because in any conversation we have where we attempt to define something that the other interlocutor is saying, I'm just not positive what you mean. You called in to say God is existence, God is love. Armin and I are saying that just really doesn't make a lot of sense to us. And here's some reasons as to why that's the case. In every other context, when that interaction occurs between two people honestly seeking truth, somebody doesn't respond by saying, well, your eyes just don't see 1 + 1 = 2. Your heart is just hardened to an internal combustion engine making a car move. No, it's not a response that happens in any other context. We don't go, my gosh, look at this beautiful addition in medical science we've just come up with. And then somebody go, nah, your heart's just hardened. That's not how that works. So it's strange that in this conversation, that was something so quick that came up when all we're trying to do is just say, hey, based on the definitions you've given us currently, doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so I'm gonna bring you back on. I'm gonna unmute you. We're gonna give you a minute to talk. We got some other really good calls too, Jasmine, that I want to get to. So we're gonna grab those here in just a second. But I want to give you a few minutes to talk. I'm unmuting you now. If I can click the damn button, sorry about that. Okay, you're back on. I want to give you a little sec to say your piece. I know we've shouted a lot at you.
Yeah, if there could be like a more of an exchange, that'd be more helpful. It seemed like I couldn't really speak, but yes, when I say that our hearts are hardened, that's not an accusation. I'm not pointing at atheists. I'm not pointing at one group. It is the hearts of man, essentially, is that we're all seeking. God has placed eternity into our hearts. The God is love. Everything that you know is love, that is good, that you are seeking for, that you're reaching for.
Jasmine,
that
you're back to the vague language.
Wait,
it took you only about 30 seconds to get back to the vague language again that we initially said was the issue. And it's just, I'm confused as to why you would go right back into that, and why you would say it's not an accusation and then accuse everyone. Like, I don't think you're just accusing atheists. I think you're accusing Christians too. You're accusing your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ of being broken, shit, fucked up people. And all because this book just said it once, but it's not a claim, SR. It's not a claim, man. Hang on, I'm gonna give it to Armin, and then we're probably gonna wrap it up.
I don't
Jasmine.
understand why we should, like, Jasmine, you are saying a bunch of absolutely useless statements that mean nothing at all, and you are saying, like, let me go on, let's have an exchange. You are not having an exchange. Imagine if you wanted to hear what I had to say, and I said butterflies live under the ground. The sky is green. Waters go up. Pens go left. Yeah. Cars walk. And then you're like, wait a minute, what are you saying, Armin? I'm like, no. Let me finish. We're having an exchange here. Let me make my point. And then I'm like, okay, go on. And they're like, walls rain upon us. And like, what the hell are you saying? Like, I have to cut this nonsense and get in because you're not saying anything. This is a bunch of vague nonsense that absolutely have no meaning at all. We obviously, for us to have an exchange, we have to cut you to figure out what the hell you're talking about to be able to have an exchange. We're not going to let you go on saying meaningless words.
Yeah. And Jasmine, I appreciate you giving us a call, and I do hope you call us again in the future, because I do think there is a space for us to have a good dialogue and a good back and forth. But maybe my suggestion would be maybe take a second to kind of have more of an understanding and an explanation of what you're trying to say when you say God is love, God is existence, because with very quick pushback, it just showed that there wasn't much of an explanation there. And I think we need that. But thank you so much. Seriously, Jasmine. I do appreciate it. No, we got to move on. I hate it. We are, unfortunately, folks, on a clock. There is a clock that ticks, and that clock is only actually known in the executive producer's head. And at some point, that clock will hit zero, and he will say, fuck this guy. I want him off my show. So, until then, we'll just have fun, and we'll take calls. And we will read out your super chats, which, by the way, did you guys notice? Did you notice this, Armin? We've got this new little feature. We can bring up a super chat. Can we bring up Daniel Shriners? He's been a member for 2 months. $10, shooting us $10 in the super chat, saying, finally able to catch 2 of my favorite hosts live. Love you too. Thank you so much, Daniel. We really, really appreciate you. We've got K-Store, member for 2 months as well, sending $2 saying, I'm back, man. Love you guys. Well, glad to have you back, K-Store. Thank you so much. We have $5 Canadian, a member for 2 months, with the username D4VIDH4X0R. Thank you so much. Saying, this is a message. Well, user D4VIDH4X0R, member for 2 months. Thank you so freaking much. We've got Blind Limey, a member for a year, and one of our wonderful hosts here at the ACA. $5 saying, I feel the need for speed. And by speed, I mean well-reasoned and articulately delivered counter-apologist talking points. I appreciate that, Blind Limey. I always love it whenever you're hanging around. Oh, shit. Okay.
Didn't know speed stands for it, but okay.
Yeah, I think Crew is kind of...
I would never have guessed.
Yeah, I think Crew is fucking with me on this one. We've got $2 Canadian, member for 2 months, user D4VIDH4X0R, saying, hail Flarbelboof. Well, I appreciate that, and hail yourself, user D4VIDH4X0R. Thank you so much. Just cut that, Greg. Just cut all that shit together. It's just like back to back of me doing that. Okay, we got Afro Story sending us $5 saying, so the tarantula hawk wasp that forces the spider to be a host for its brood only to be killed from the inside out is for Jesus. You're damn right. You are damn right, Afro Story. And you know why I know that? Because they're always telling you to let Jesus inside you so that he can lay as eggs that eat your insides as they grow. Pretty sure that's what they say in the churches. John Ireland sent in €1.99 saying, not euros, pounds. I'm sorry. Love Armin's thought process and seculars too. LOL. Thank you so freaking much. We've got $1.99 from Gayest Husky saying, question, what did Judas say to Jesus after the Last Supper? I'm genuinely hoping that we get an answer to that. Oh, we do. It's the next set. Gayest Husky sent another $1.99 saying, I see dead people. God damn it. That's good. That's good. We're almost done. I swear. We've got some other really good theist calls. I'm super excited. Rick, we are going to be coming to you here just next, brother. So get ready. We will be right there. We've got Caro Vegan 94 ECPLN sending $50. Holy crap, Caro Vegan. Thank you. Saying thank you so much for the show. Armin and Secular Rarity are amazing. You are freaking awesome. We've got $5 from Rainbow Wolf, another regular around here, saying, my turn, Gayest Husky. Why was Jesus's nose running if he can just heal himself? Because this wolf gave his mouth a very wet and sticky situation. We have $19.99 from Godless Doctor saying, keep battling the bat shittery. Thank you so freaking much, Godless Doctor. We appreciate that. And Isaiah S., a member for 2 months, and $2 saying, just look at the mangoes. Abso-freaking-lutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, folks. And while I've got you here, while I got you paying attention, okay, I want to tell you about something that's real important, okay? It happens in the summertime in a little known place called Austin, Texas. That's right, folks. It's time for the annual Bat Cruise fundraiser here at the ACA. Join us August 24th with Forrest Valkai, J. Mike, myself, Kelly Laughlin. I've heard Johnny P. Angel may make an appearance, and many other awesome faces will be there. So get more information and buy your tickets at tiny.cc/batcruise. Come hang out with us, come sin, come blaspheme, and watch bats as they fly away and eat a bunch of bugs. It is actually really cool. It is a really cool time. Armin, you ready for another call? We've had enough of a break, right?
Yes.
Let's do
it. Yes.
We going out to Texas. We've got Rick. He wants to talk to us about science and the world, and I love it, Rick. We are here for it. You were chatting with Secular Rarity and Armin Navabi. What is up?
Howdy. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, y'all are atheists. Y'all don't believe that God or any, God created the universe and everything. So how do y'all explain the creation of the universe and the world and people and everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me, right, there's a couple of different responses that I can give, but I think what I normally go to is like, there seems to be a lot of really, really smart people that have done a real shit ton of investigation, right? One of those people could be like a Sean Carroll, right? He's somebody that gets thrown out a lot in this space, but there's a lot of really good demonstration that something along the lines of like a false vacuum state, like, turning into an actual vacuum state or vice versa. And then like this real hot, intense expansion of space and time simultaneously. Now, if you hear all of that, Rick, and just go, fuck, Elliot, that sounds ridiculous. Like, man, I'm not disagreeing that it doesn't sound kind of wild. I'm totally with you there, man. That is fascinatingly difficult to comprehend. But the good news is, like, we've got a lot of people that have done a really good job of explaining why they got that information and why they've come to the conclusions that they have. And all of those answers seem to ultimately point to something that is just a part of our natural world and does not have any room for a deity of any kind. Armin, do you want to give a response real quick, and then we'll kick it back to you, Rick?
I have to object with the framing of this question, calling the world a creation. It's an assumption that this world has been created. So I wanted to have that on record, that I don't that question came with an assumption that the world has been created. So you can't call the creation unless you can show that it was created by something. Two, this question also assumes that to be an atheist, we have to have an answer for where the hell the world came from, and that's another assumption that I want to challenge. I don't, when it comes to this specific universe that we're in, even if there are some models and theories that we have, some really good ones, they're not about how it came to be. They're talking about what happened very early on at the beginning of this universe. As I think, based on my understanding, we don't even know how this universe came to be, right? And it doesn't really matter. Why are you connecting atheism to having an answer to how this world came to be, how this universe came to be, or everything came to be? These two are two separate things. You don't need to connect atheism. To be an atheist, you don't need to have an answer to any of these questions. To be an atheist is actually not accepting some people's claim that this universe came from a deliberate creation process of an all-powerful, all-knowing entity. So we just reject, because we actually don't reject, right? We don't accept that claim. That's the only thing that makes us atheists. We don't have to actually have a theory ourselves. Right. We don't actually have to demonstrate anything ourselves. We just have to not accept that claim to be an atheist. So why are you asking us to come up with an explanation? We are not, us making a claim is not what makes us atheists. Us not accepting a claim is what makes us atheists, right? So don't connect our atheism to us coming up with an answer. The people who are making the claim, their job is to come up with an answer. We're not making a claim here. Like, at least when it comes to our atheism, there's nothing about our atheism that makes us come up with claims. Some people might come up with claims, and they might be atheists at the same time that they are making those claims, but them making those claims are not part of their atheism. Right. Just not accepting theist claims, that's what makes them atheists.
Yeah. We'll give you a second to kind of shout back at us or ask us another question, Rick. What you got? Okay.
No, I'm good. So I kind of expected his response. I was actually really pleased with your response.
That's why I like working with Armin. I'll be honest, Rick, because we both, I agree with everything you say, and I was glad that you also brought that up too. So, but yeah, go ahead, Rick.
No, I expected y'all to say that. So, okay, and I'm not going to be rude here, but I want to answer both of them real quick, okay? And then I'll let y'all tell me what y'all think about that. But the first one, actually, Armin, could you remind me of what your first thing was?
Basically that because atheists aren't making a claim, the necessity for having an answer to this particular question isn't something that's actually inherent in the label of atheism.
Well, I phrased it as created. That was it. Okay.
Yeah. Created. Yeah.
I only said created, not meaning a being or anything like an entity. We'll say that an entity created. I'm not saying that, but that majority of scientists are now agreeing that the universe had a beginning, which would mean some sort of a creation of either a Big Bang without an entity or something. If that's what you want to believe in.
Not everything that exists, not the cosmos.
Yeah.
This universe had a beginning. Technically, no, actually it doesn't.
The universe had a beginning because it's winding down. Okay, so it must have been wound up at some point. The second part of your question is...
Wait, that's actually wrong. The concept, this universe seems to have a beginning based on our human-centric perspective of experiencing this universe, right? This is a human-centric concept that things have a beginning and they go through time and then they end. Okay, this linear point of view of time is a human-centric look at viewing of the universe, right? But first of all, there's two problems with what you're saying. First of all, even within our universe, the world itself is not like that. That's how we experience the world. But also, we don't even know if our universe is everything that exists, right? You're talking about certain scientific claims that scientists have made about this universe that we are living in. We don't know if that holds true for the entirety of all existence. We don't know if you can make these same claims about, the cosmos.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So I am talking
the
about
winding.
And
Yeah, but the winding down thing too is also something I want to just real quick. Like, just because something has a shit ton of energy at its present state doesn't mean that like anything necessarily purposefully gave it that energy, right? Like we see this in rocks, right? That's why we have like uranium decay and so forth, is because it has a shit ton of energy, and because of that energy it releases parts of its atoms, and it ultimately turns into lead. So like nobody at any point in time like connected these rocks to like an electricity source or anything. That's just how they are. That's their state of existence. That's the way these atoms exist, right? But keep going.
And even if things did have a beginning, it doesn't make it a creation.
Yeah, true.
Okay, I get that. So I just say creation because that's what my mind uses.
I understand.
Okay,
That's
we don't
the
have to go
lingo,
creation, a beginning. We just do a beginning.
Sure.
Because I want to get lost on one topic, on that one point. So, because most scientists believe that it did have a starting origin, okay? Also, that was why I phrased it that way. On your second point about atheists not needing to, not making a claim, that they are only saying that they don't accept the claims that have been made by theists or, others, whatever, anyone that believes in an entity, then I actually want to counter that one. Because when you're sitting there saying, I don't accept your view of how things began, okay, then it is my right to then say, okay, if you don't accept my view, then what would your view be?
Well, now hold on, Rick. Now hold on, man. It may sound like I'm excited and I'm about to yell at you, but I'm not, brother. Here's why. I'm excited, okay? Because I think you said it there. No. This is good. I think what you said actually was good, man. Like, here's the thing. The way you just phrased it was, it's your right to then go, okay, well, what's your answer to that? Brother, fuck yeah, man. I'm all on board with that. Absolutely. You come up to me and you say, hey, I've got a claim. And I go, man, I'm going to be honest, I don't really think that's true. And then you go, oh, well, what's your explanation for this? I think that's completely reasonable, dude. I think that's absolutely reasonable. But here's the break. And this is what I think is super important and what Armin was talking about in his initial response. It is absolutely completely separate. It is absolutely completely disconnected from the initial, I don't believe your claim. I don't have to say anything whatsoever from then on, because all that has happened is you came up, said, hey, man, here's what I think. I go, oh, I don't believe that. I do not have to have any justification, anything else other than I don't believe it, because that's the stance. That's the response. Again, though, I think you're spot fucking on when you said like, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of reasonable that somebody would then go, well, what's your answer to that? Yeah, totally, man. That's why we do these shows. We love having that conversation, but that is a separate thing. That is a separate thing. Us being atheists is just saying, exactly. Nah, man.
No, hold on, Rick. I want to respond to that as well, because you're saying that I have every right to ask you what's your explanation. I mean, who are you talking to? As you're saying that to us, as if I said, you don't have the right to ask me that question. Like maybe you're having an argument with somebody other than us here, because nobody questioned your right to ask that question. You could ask that question, okay? Like, okay, if it's not God, how did the universe came to be? You are completely have the right to ask that question. And I also have the right to tell you, well, I have no freaking clue. All right. That's also my right to answer you that. Right. Just because you have the right to answer that question, that doesn't mean that I have to have an answer for you. But go on.
Yeah, no, actually, that is exactly what I believe. That you don't have to answer my question. You don't have to have an explanation. Okay? But, and also, you are absolutely right to say that I have to have some kind of explanation for my claim. Okay? Whether you think it's good or not doesn't matter. Okay? Yeah. That doesn't matter. It's not going to make any difference to me in my view. Even the Bible says that we need to have an answer to the claim of God. Okay, it says that be ready.
Every time somebody says the Bible says or the Quran says, my mind always shouts, I don't freaking care. Tell me what you think. I don't understand why theists, Muslims and Christians specifically, always have this habit to say the Bible says or the Quran says when they're talking to atheists. I completely understand why you would say that if you're talking to a fellow Christian or if you're talking to a fellow Muslim. I don't understand. Do you understand? We don't see any worth. We don't think that your claim becomes any more valid by you adding the Bible says. I don't care what the Bible says. Please, you know how stupid that sounds when you're talking to an atheist and you add that to your argument that the Bible says that. It doesn't matter. We are atheists. We haven't established at all that there's any credibility in these sources. So stop telling us, please, Muslims and Christians, when you're talking to atheists, please stop telling us what your scripture says. We don't care what your scripture says. We're talking to you. We're looking what you are saying and how are you going to support those claims. That's the only thing we're caring about. It's an insult to everyone's intelligence when you mention your scripture, when you're talking to people who don't believe in that scripture. But go on, Rick.
Okay, two-part response to what you just said, please, if you don't mind. One, I actually only mentioned the scripture when it absolutely agreed with what y'all said. If you would have listened to it, it says that you need to be ready to give an explanation for your faith, which y'all always say on here. How do you prove your claim? Prove your claim to me. That's your job. So it actually benefits you for you to listen to that one. It actually is on your side. That's why I mentioned it.
It coincides. I see that.
We don't care.
That it's actually on the side of Jesus on that part.
Yeah,
I don't care. I have a leprechaun. I have a leprechaun under my bed. I have a leprechaun under my bed that agrees with everything you're saying, Richard. Every single argument that you're making, my leprechaun agrees with that. I don't know if you find that comforting or not, but I talked to him and he has very similar views to you. I hope that you find that very comforting, but go on.
Don't listen to him, Rick. Armin's just suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. Go ahead.
It's fine. So number two on that, actually, the Bible isn't just a book. It's not the Quran or any other holy book. All right. It is actually a collection of 66 books.
Sure.
So is the Quran.
But ultimately, we don't put any weight in those things in the sense of them having any more importance than anything else that is being written. So
I don't know why I have other books that are collections of other books. I don't know, like, hey, this is not a book. This is a collection of letters that scientists wrote to each other. Well, it has been turned into its own book. Just because the Bible is a collection of other books, it doesn't make it not a book. A book can be a collection of other books. That's not a contradiction. Go on.
But hang on, Rick. I just want to pause this just for a second because we've gotten a little far afield, and it's been fine. Honestly, I think it's been a wonderful discussion, man. I think you've been real charitable. You've listened. You've responded. I really, really appreciate that, man. I want to go back to kind of, I think, the main focus and thrust about the beginning of the universe, the creation of the universe, if that's the thing, all that good stuff. Let me ask, if it were shown to your satisfaction, right? Not me saying, oh, Rick, this does it, but like I present you with something that you look at and go, yeah, it kind of seems like that explains how the universe in its current instantiation got here, and it doesn't require a God. Would that, if you got to that point, would that make you think that God doesn't exist?
I'll answer it in this way because I am actually more level-minded with all this. If you could prove to me pretty much 100% positively that the world or the universe and everything was created without a God, yes, I would not believe in God anymore.
Cool. Sean Carroll
Now,
did hang on just real quick. Sean Carroll did a discussion a while ago with William Lane Craig. And during that discussion, at one point, he literally just put up on screen just like 14 different models that are currently being talked about in physics in a handful of different ways. And what I would suggest, man, is just please go look into that. I'm not saying that you watch that debate and all of a sudden you completely change your mind. You may not. But I think if you are really interested, if that is a sticking point for you, man, like this is a big deal to your faith in God, my honest view as somebody that was a Christian at one point, my view then would have been, hey, Rick, the only way you are truly following Jesus is to investigate that information honestly. And if it comes to the conclusion that God wasn't necessary for the beginning of the universe, then that's the conclusion you have to accept. I think that's a great place to be.
I'm talking to, if you don't mind.
Say again?
Because you just saw I'm an open-minded person. Let me see how open-minded y'all are. Let me reverse the question though.
Sure.
If y'all actually found proof, not stuff that you just discount with, it might be scientific
demonstration that God was necessary for the existence of the universe.
Throw it out with these stupid ways that some people just throw real evidences out with.
Sure.
Would
I believe in God?
Take in all the evidence and say, wait, this actually really does explain the universe. Would you then believe in God?
Yes, I would. Would I worship that God? That's a different story. We can have that conversation on another call, Rick, because I would love to keep talking with you in the future. But yes, if in the same manner that I have read and looked through a handful of different understandings from individuals that have spent their lives doing this, decades, hundreds and hundreds of years of collective human knowledge have brought us to these conclusions. And if I went through things similar to that to my level of satisfaction demonstrated that the only way a universe could be as it is now was with the existence of a God and that God creating it, I would absolutely, on this show, I would beg the producers, let me on one more time to tell people I now believe. Abso-fucking-lutely, Rick, because I think that is the honest thing to do, brother. Now, I will then say my bias, I'll be honest with you, my bias is that's probably not going to be the case. It hasn't ever been the case any other time I've done it.
Probably not going to be the case for me either.
And I totally understand. And that's why, brother, because you just even said that, because you were so vulnerable there and willing to just be like, you know what, man, I'm already on this side of, nuh-uh, probably not, but I'll go look at it. Brother, I think that is the absolute thing that I want when we have these conversations. When we do these shows, that's what's on my mind all the time, man. The fact that you and I came here and we're like, we've got, kind of our stances, but okay, yeah. I mean, I would have to accept it's the other way. Dude, Rick, I really appreciate this.
Same. Well, can I also say?
Yeah, go ahead.
I also say that if I find an evidence for the existence of God, I would, anything. I would. It doesn't even have to be proving the existence of God. It just has to be making it justifiable to believe in God. My standards is not proof. My standard is evidence enough to make it justifiable. Not only I would believe in God, I would worship this God even if I believe that he does not deserve worshiping, just because such a God would be too powerful. Like, what the?
See?
I hear
And
so
that's
many atheists
interesting.
say that. How many so atheists here like, oh, if there was a God, I would not worship it because it doesn't deserve worshiping. Like, I'm sure so many atheists, like, I could make them worship anything with just pointing a gun at them, let alone eternal torture.
See, okay.
Like, that is
See, now I feel like you're changing. I feel like you're changing the situation a bit. But look, Rick, Armin is ready. He is fertile ground, man. Plant the seed, bro. Get him on the Christian
I would
side.
believe in that. I would believe in your God if you provide evidence, any evidence for it. And I will start worshiping it immediately out of my own sense of self-preservation, the desire for self-preservation.
I heard that.
Yep.
Yes.
And look,
anything that could be an actual action.
And scientific.
Yeah.
He's open to it, man. And again, he's
for sure.
He's further on. He's already on the heed worship. I'm on the I'd believe, but I'm not on the worship. So we could kind of hash that out too in a late, but you'd have Armin on your side too then. But okay, look, Rick, this was awesome. I had a great time with this call. I hope you did too. I seriously think give us a call back, man. Like give us a call back either with some of that evidence, historical, scientific, whatever, man. Bring it to us, or come back looking into the beginnings of the universe, because I love it, man. I love it.
In fact, I hope you're able to convince us that there's a God, because if there is a God and we are missing out on it, then that's horrible. Like I will keep my mind open, because imagine if I'm wrong. I have to keep my mind open, because imagine if that's the reality and I'm not seeing it. So I would like to be convinced. I would like to be convinced that there's a God, if there is a God. So help me out here if you can,
Rick, thank you so freaking much, man.
Y'all check out Dr. Frank Turk if you don't mind.
Yep, we'll look into it, brother. We have before, but we will look into it, and we will be waiting to talk with you further on some stuff he said, some stuff you get from Sean Carroll and others, and this evidence, brother. Seriously, we're gonna let you go. I really, really appreciate the crap out of that. I felt like that call was, exactly what we're looking for, man. Somebody that's honest, somebody that's willing to say, let me go look into some stuff. I'm
going to challenge you, Elliot, on this whole not worshiping God.
Go,
like, we have to have this talk.
I'll smack you down, bro.
Whole, if there is a God, I might be like, if there's evidence, I will believe it, but not worship. Like, how could you not worship an all-powerful entity that is threatening you with eternal torture? Like, are you crazy?
Here's why. Yeah. Because I know that no matter what, as terrified as I would be, as absolutely I would be in that boat of being like instantly thinking about subservience, right? This is an all-powerful deity that knows everything. And that's the problem. They would know that I wasn't serious. They would know that I wasn't serious.
It doesn't matter. You have to try.
Why would I lie? Why would I lie? Is that not more offensive to that deity? No. It knows that I'm fucking bullshitting.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like it doesn't matter. Just submit. Have you read his book? He cares for submission. It doesn't really matter. It only cares about submission. It doesn't really matter why. It could be out of love or out of fear. It doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You're going to choose eternal torture instead of bending the knee. Sure.
It's not that I'm choosing eternal torture. It's I don't have an option.
No,
I can't.
I mean, if I would bet if somebody came with you with a gun in the street asking for your money, you would be like, "Oh, here's my money." You're not like, "No, I'm gonna make a." You're not going to be like, "I'm going to make a stance here. I'm not going to submit to this." I reject people robbing me. This is like this is immoral. This is not.
The problem is you need that.
This is a lot of grandstanding and brave talk for a lot of atheists that know that they're never going to be. The atheists acting brave because they know they're never going to be in that situation. So why not pretend that they're going to be that brave anyways? That's what's happening.
Let me fix your analogy, okay? You do this all the time on your show. I love it. You're like, let me fix your question, okay? Here's what's wrong with your analogy. The mugger has to want me to enjoy getting mugged and has the ability to know my thoughts. That's what this God does. And because that's the case, me lying to it would be more offensive to that thing. That's what I'm saying. I'm sticking with that. You will be a goat, Armin, that Jesus says, I never knew. Jesus does not know you. You will be cast into the lake.
You don't know that. You're adding a whole bunch of assumptions to the characteristics of this God.
You know what?
All we have established is that there's a powerful entity that exists that wants worship. Why are you adding all of this other stuff to it? You don't know that.
We're going to you, our wonderful audience who have sat through this so patiently. We're going to you now. Who's right? Let's see it in the chat. Let's see it in the comments. Armin or me?
Act brave. Why not act brave when they're never going to be tested? They're going to act like...
I think it would be
here's
more
a question
offensive.
Here's a question between acting like you're tough and brave and acting like you will submit. Which one should I go for when I know this situation is never going to happen? Obviously, I'm going to go with acting tough and brave. Yeah.
I think I provided good logical pushback, and either way, we.
Sure.
Oh my god, dude, that's just we always have so much fucking fun on this. Hey, by the way, we've actually gotten super chats. We got $2 from Buddy Bouncer saying the farting turtle shall reign. That's right, farting turtle forever. We also have another super chat from member for 2 months, D4VIDH4X0R. $10 Canadian said, Armin doesn't have a leprechaun under his bed. Well, that's a claim username, D4VID. Okay,
yeah. Now you have to prove it. You actually made a claim. You have to prove
it. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Now, we also have $2 from Matthew Richardson saying, I could convince you there's a God. Well, Matthew, you can call in. You can call in. We are here. We are ready for it. And well, I was gonna go to another call that actually Armin would be great at. Abdur, I'm gonna grab you next here. We are going to talk about Islam here in just a second. But before I do that, folks, I've got to tell you some things. I got to tell you some stuff that's going on, that's happening. And I know you ask yourself on a regular basis, you say, my gosh, what is happening here at the atheist community of Austin? What are the goings-ons whenever this show is not happening? Well, it's easy to find out because all you got to do is head to www.atheist-community.org. You can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved, folks. All of us here, both myself, Armin, and our wonderful backup host, Richard Gilliver, who we are going to bring on at the end of the show, because Armin's got a talking he's got to give to Richard and myself, you guys. That's going to be, it's somebody, somebody has some things to say. But we all were just fans of the shows at one point, and we reached out and we started volunteering and helping, and here we are having fun and getting yelled at by our co-hosts for very logical and reasonable positions that all of our audience will agree with me on. So suck it, Armin. Also available on atheist-community.org are printable call-in flyers. You can post these flyers with permission to community bulletin boards in your local area so people know that they should call our show and defend their faith. And that's a fun thing to do. And speaking of that, hey, Armin, do you want to talk about Islam a little? I've heard it is the one true religion.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, let's do it.
I mean, I can defend it better. Honestly, I can defend Islam better than any Muslim I ever met.
Well, you heard it. You heard it, Abdur. The challenge has been laid. We are going to New York. Him, Abdur, wants to talk about Islam, and I'm guessing why it's true. Well, hey, brother, you were chatting up with Secular Rarity and Armin Navabi. What you got?
All right. Can you guys hear me? Sorry to ask. I know they told me not to ask. But can you guys hear me?
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
So the reason why I'm a Muslim is I have a criteria laid out. Number one, the theology is coherent logically, deductively. Number two,
Okay.
the scripture of the Muslims is preserved, unlike the scriptures of the other religions, for example, the New Testament, the Old Testament.
Except for that one palimpsest, but yeah.
Number three,
What did he say?
the Quran. I'm sorry, what?
So the first
The
one, the
audio
first
was-
one is a logical theology, a logical theological framework. The second one was the preservation of the original text of the Quran. The third one,
The third one is that just because the book is preserved doesn't mean it's from God. It has to give you information that shows that it cannot be from other than God. For example, prophecies and miracles and so on.
and the third one
Well,
is the third one prophecies and miracles. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, information that convinces you that it's from the divine and not from
Okay.
a human being.
If I could prove to you that the perfect preservation is not true, would that shake your faith? Would that shake your confidence in this conclusion?
It would, but we know.
The Sana palimpsest. Just after the show, we don't need to go into it at all right now. But SANAA palimpsest, PALIMPSEST. That's a fun word that basically means one document that had other things written on top of it after a while. That's a real thing, and it undermines the perfect preservation of the Quran.
and also I have so many different even today.
Yeah,
hold on,
Abdur. Hang on, Abdur.
Wait,
I don't want to mute you, but
hold on.
I'm gonna mute you.
I have there are already right now so many different versions of the Quran, even as
Currently
we
in
speak, in circulation.
Right.
In circulation. The most two famous one being Warsh and Hafs. And I have so many of the variations in front of me right now. And if you want to say that these are just difference in pronunciations and the way that people read them, that is not the case. If you actually look at the differences, you could see that they are very significant differences between the different versions of the Quran that we have right now, to the point that they change the commandments of Allah. They change what God has commanded. The meaning changes, and it's not just the dialectic marks or the zamme or the kasra or the fatha or the IO or the dots. It's also actually fundamental part of the skeleton of the Quran are different between the Qurans that are in circulation, to the point that it changed the meaning of the word of the God's word. So we know that. In fact, here's the claim I make. Okay. Not only the Quran has not been preserved, there is not a single point in the evolution of the Quran that it has not changed. It was in constant change. To be fair though, the Quran has been preserved much more than other sacred texts, other scripture, right?
Yep.
Relative to other scripture, the Quran has been if your standard is other scripture, the Quran has been preserved very, very well. But the problem for Muslims is that their claim for the Quran to be a miracle is that it has been preserved perfectly. And we have so much evidence. That it has not been preserved perfectly. It was in constant change. Less change than other scripture, to be fair, but still change.
Yeah, and I'm gonna unmute you here, Abdur, in just a second. It'll be a real loud beat, but before I do that, if you've got the show up in the background or something, it kind of sounded like you had the stream going in the background. Just mute it for us, turn it off or whatever. But I'm unmuting you now, and we're gonna give you a second to shout at us. What you got?
Are you guys here?
Yep.
Hello? All right, okay. So the first thing is, Armin said that, for example, we have Warsh and another style of recitation, for example, Hafs. The meanings of these different styles of recitation are harmonious. For example, you have Maliki Yawmiddin in Hafs, and in Warsh, you have Maliki Yawmiddin. What one means the king of the day of judgment, the other means the master of the day of judgment.
Okay, but if there was an example like Armin was talking about, I think we understand what you're saying there, Abdur. And this is actually something very similar to what a lot of the Christians say, okay? They say, hey, man, there's some stuff in there that isn't really that different, and it doesn't really change the meaning. They said plate, the other person said saucer. It's the same fucking thing. I'm with you there, okay? Cool, we're on the same page. Let me ask a very important question, Abdur. Armin was making a really specific point about the different differences in the versions of Quran that exist today. And what he was saying was it actually does make completely separate commandments that cannot be harmonized. If we could find that, would you then say the perfect preservation of the Quran is not true?
All right, could you guys hear me?
Yep. Can you answer the question?
Did you hear us?
All right, guys. Yeah, not to be thing. You guys like cut me off a lot, and you muted me before.
So if you don't answer the question, I am muting you right now, Abdur, because we've had a good dialogue so far, I think. Okay, and I get really, really frustrated because it feels disingenuous. Now, I'm not saying you are being disingenuous, but it feels really disingenuous when you come on and say, here are 3 things that lead me to this conclusion to accepting the truth in Islam. And one of them is the perfect preservation of the Quran from its original text. And Armin and I go, hey man, we've actually looked into this a bit and we have some very specific points. Answer the question directly, man. I've got other people and I'm just going to go to them. If Armin found that example, that is not some master, king, day, sunlight thing, not that, but literally changing the structure of Allah's commands themselves, would that make you say the perfect preservation of the Quran is not true anymore? I'm going to unmute you. It's going to be a loud beep. Please just answer the question directly, man.
Cut me out a lot. I try to talk for a few seconds. You mute me like.
So you're not answering the question.
I'm going to fucking mute you again because you're wasting time.
Elliot specifically asked you to answer the question, and you failed to do so. You failed to do so.
Should we give him another chance, Armin? Because seriously, this is dumb. I have these fucking conversations in person with people almost every fucking day of my life. Honest people can answer these types of questions. If you asked me this question and said, hey, SR, if it was proven to your satisfaction that the Quran was perfectly preserved, would that make you think X? I can answer that. Please just do it, man. We've had a really good show so far. This call has been good. I know it seems like I'm getting a little hot, but I swear, man, I'm good. All I want is just a direct answer to this. Just say yes or no, because if your response is fucking no, have a good fucking day, Abdur. Live your fucking life and don't waste any time saying, these are the reasons that I accept the claim of Islam being true. Okay? I won't waste my time. I'll kick your ass off and I'll just have Armin explain this point to our audience. He's going to do it better anyway. So, if the answer is yes, tell us, because then Armin's got a fucking point I want you to hear. If the answer is no, have a great rest of your fucking day, dude. I'm bringing you back on. You're unmuted. Yes or no. I'll repeat the question if you need me to.
Repeat the question.
Got it. If it were possible for us to find a passage in the Quran that in 2 separate versions was so radically different that it literally changes the commands of Allah and cannot be harmonized, would that make you no longer accept the claim that the Quran was perfectly preserved?
If they're not able to be harmonized, then yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Abdur. I am so sorry I was a dick. Armin, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. So the verse that Muslims would like to use, Muslims would figure out that we have actually different Qurans in circulation. The Maliki Yawmiddin and Maliki Yawmiddin is their favorite example to show, to demonstrate that how they don't contradict each other and they're like complementary to each other, and basically they kind of mean the same thing. However, that's the one they want to go to because they think that giving that example shows that they all are the same way. But actually, there's plenty of examples to show that many of the other ones are not like this, right? So, for example, if you go to Surah Baqarah, ayah 184. So chapter 2 of the Quran, verse 184. So the half circulation of the Quran, if you look at it, it says miskinen. And if you look at the Warsh version of the Quran, it says masakina, right? So this is not just a different pronunciation. This actually changed the meaning. And the meaning of the first version, the Hafs version, it says the translation would be, and for those who can fast with difficulty, they have to feed a poor person. Meaning that if you have to, so people have to fast during the month of Ramadan. But if it's difficult for somebody, like somebody has difficulty fasting, instead of fasting, they could feed one poor person, a poor person. But the translation of the Warsh version, it says, and for those who can fast with difficulty, may affect a redemption by feeding poor men. So for those unable to fast, they should feed one person instead, or many poor people instead, like a couple of poor people instead. This shows, by the way, so the most widespread version of the Quran in it today says a poor person, one poor person. But if the Warsh version that is now in circulation in North Africa, if that one is correct, all of these people are actually following the wrong commandment of Allah, and they're not feeding enough poor people to justify them not fasting. They're feeding to not just one, they're trying to follow God's commandment, but they're following the wrong Quran. They should have been feeding a couple of poor people. So we see two Qurans with two different versions, that is the difference is not just big enough for it to have two different meaning, but the meaning is so far apart enough for the commandment of Allah change. These things are not harmonious, they're not complementary, they're making two different commandments. So that's the example.
What do you think,
I have
Abdur?
more if you want.
Yeah, we'll start with that one. What do you think, Abdur?
Okay, so I already know this. Both of them are harmonious because in fiqh, which is jurisprudence, you're allowed to do one of the two options. You can either feed one person multiple meals, or you can feed multiple people a meal. So this is not.
Do you accept that those two things? Okay,
No,
go ahead.
That's not what the Quran is saying. So that's jurisprudence. That's the opinions of the scholars. That's man-made. That's man-made. The Quran itself is not saying, so see, now you have a third commandment of Allah. Now you actually made it worse. Because if what you're saying is true, then the Quran should have said you have two options. So now you added a third, and actually you committed a sin because you said something that neither of these two versions said. The first version said one person. The second one says more than one person, and now you're saying something that contradicts both of them because neither of these verses says that you have two options. Neither of them make that claim. You have made a third claim that is in contradiction with both versions of this Quran. One of them says you have this option, the other one says you have that option. Neither of the verses that says you have two options that you could do. You did bid'ah. You changed the commandment of Allah, and you should go repent because that's a major sin in Islam. Go on, sir.
Bisharaf.
That's Persian. He doesn't. I don't think he speaks Persian.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. This is not just, it's man-made. The Quran itself says the teachings are transmitted through people who understand how it should be transmitted. They give the explanation based on the explanations of the Prophet, the Sahaba, those who come after the Tabi'een. So this is not just me making it up. This is the part of the religion of Islam of how you...
No. That's you attempting to make the claim unfalsifiable. Okay, yeah. Because you said the Quran has not been preserved, it has been completely preserved. And when we show you that there's different versions of it, well, that was already planned. So basically, do you understand that's what makes your claim unfalsifiable? Basically, I could show you a million different versions of the Quran, constantly changing, and all of them should be just, well, God planned it this way because the transmitters like this could have this meaning over there, it could have that meaning over there, and this is all God's plan. This is God's Allah's hikmah behind this, because the transmitters are doing exactly what God has planned for each one of these versions of the Quran. This makes the claim that the Quran has been preserved and the Quran has not been preserved so completely similar that you can't even tell them apart, because now nobody can show you that the Quran has not been preserved, because any different variations of the Quran would be part of God's plan and his deliberate attempt to send different messages through different transmitters to different people. So how could what would be even the difference between the Quran that hasn't been preserved and a Quran that has been preserved? So your miracle is not even a miracle, because it's indistinguishable for something that is quite ordinary, which is scripture, just like every other scripture that changes through time and evolves and constantly changes. You could say that, well, my Quran looks also like it's been changing throughout history, throughout time, but because this is a deliberate part of God's plan, then it has been fully preserved. Well, this is a miracle. This is a miracle that is indistinguishable for a non-miracle. How could, if the point of a miracle from God is to show you, give you a message to prove that he's real, why would he give you a miracle that is indistinguishable for something that is not a miracle at all?
And your claim there, technically, Abdur, goes against the direct words of the Quran. The Quran says it's clear and unambiguous, written in plain language for everyone to understand. So what you said means that that's not true.
Right, yes. I don't need, that's another. But also, all of this interpretation that you're adding to the Quran, you're not even getting it from the Quran. Show me the verse that you're getting. This is all from Islamic scholars mumbo jumbo, right? This is the fact that these are two different versions of the Quran contradicts an Islamic claim, and your excuses does not come from the Quran itself. None of it comes from the Quran. This is just man-made stuff, which is a sin.
Every time you're getting refuted, are you going to cut me off?
Well, you haven't refuted us yet, so...
You haven't refuted a single thing.
When you start refuting something, we'll see if we cut you off. But until then, I guess I'll just let you go, because I have the ability to just keep talking over you. And despite you attempting to, all I have to do is just move my cursor like this, and then you'll hear a loud beep, and you'll be muted. And I think the reason that... And I don't know, because I don't know you, Abdur. You know, you could, and I could be saying your name wrong this whole time, by the way. Please feel free to yell at me and correct me and call me an asshole next time you call, because I'm going to drop you in just a moment. And the reason I'm going to drop you is because despite the fact that you finally were able to answer a direct question, when presented with the information, you did the thing. You did the thing that people do whenever they actually don't care about what the information is and they're just going to believe it. You just change the parameters in a way that goes, hey, heads I win, tails I win. And that's okay. It's just a shit way to come to truth, man. And again, next time you call, if you start refuting us in that call, we'll see if we cut you off. I'd be surprised because Armin and I are really interested in finding information that disproves us. And I hope you are actually interested in that too, man. We'll find out. We'll find out maybe, because maybe you'll call again and maybe you'll say, hey, man, let's talk about those other points since you so thoroughly debunked this one about the preservation of the Quran. But until then, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you. Really loved having you on. I was glad, Armin, look, I was glad that I could finally hold his feet to the fire so that he answered that question, because I knew when you presented it, it would be something like that. It would be so fucking undeniable. This is not the same. They just aren't. And every answer that he gave afterward, oh, well, we go to what the scholars say, you know? We look how the Ummah practiced in the early days. They were the most righteous and holy of us anyway. Oh, you know what? Actually, you need those scholars to interpret it despite what the Quran says about being clear. So yeah, I was really appreciative of that. So yeah.
Yeah, so people who don't know, like, just a quick summary of what happened, right? We basically said, you said this is, your God has, I'm just going to simplify this. Your God has sent two different messages. And he says, no, oh, my God has sent only one message, right? And I'm like, well, we see differences. They're like, well, they're basically the same commandments. And then we said, well, if we show that these are different commandments, would you accept that you're wrong? And he said, yes. Then I showed them that this is one commandment, this is a different commandment. There are two versions of the Quran. I mean, there's 7 actually, but there's 2 main ones in circulation that they're just different. And then he says, well, actually, my God says you can do this or that. You could choose. You see how he moved the goalpost? Because he specifically said that if you show me that there's 2 different versions of the commandment, I will accept that I'm wrong. But once we showed him that there's 2 different commandments, he all of a sudden switched. He said, well, that's okay because you have an option to either do this or that. But your standard at the beginning, that's why Elliot was so clear. I knew why Elliot was very clear with his question, because his standard was, if there are 2 commandments, I will accept that I'm wrong. And this is actually one of the Achilles heels of Islam, because for so many Muslims, this is the main miracle. Mm-hmm. For so many Muslims around the world, the fact that there's only one Quran, well, no, not the fact, the delusion that there's only one Quran that has never changed is the miracle, is the main miracle that proves Islam is true. That's why they come with that with you. And it's so bizarre that that's their main miracle, because it's so obviously wrong. Like usually when you want to show religious people that they're wrong, you can't even make any claims. You just have to let them make claims, and you have to show them that their evidence is, not valid. But with the Muslims, we could actually make a claim that they're wrong, because the world is filled with evidence that their main miracle is wrong. Like we could go actually on the attack mode. We could actually make positive claims because we have evidence that they're wrong. Many times religious people make claims that we don't have evidence that they're wrong. They just don't have any evidence that they're right. But when it comes with Muslims, we actually have the upper hand. We could be like, hey, look, I actually have copies of this book that they contradict each other. Your main miracle that proves your religion is false.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a truly, guys, I mean, I'm not going to say any names because I definitely don't, want to send anybody to these people, but like, don't take our word for it. Take the Dawa boys on YouTube. Listen to them. Listen to the people actually out there on the front lines trying to spread the message of Islam. They've stopped saying things like, look at all the scientific miracles in the Quran. Look at the perfect preservation of the Quran, because they are just getting so thoroughly trounced with those arguments. I've got a couple of super chats.
One of the comments says, that's funny. I'm going to use it. I'm going to steal that from you. Somebody says, Quran, choose your adventure edition. Yes, this is the new model. Now that Muslims have been so embarrassed about the fact that there's different versions of the Quran in circulation, this is what they're going with. Like, well,
if you choose,
it is completely preserved. It's just that you could choose your adventure. Exactly, that is what's happening.
If you choose the left hallway, turn to Surah 9:5. Like, oh my God. Okay. I've got some super chats from you wonderful people, because you guys have been so freaking generous helping us out here, making all the things happen so that Armin and I can come on here and have a good time and be better Muslims than our Muslim callers. But before I read those super chats, I have to tell you that there is a wonderful group of people, a mythical group of people, almost individuals that gather regularly to put up with the shit that Armin and I spout on a regular basis behind the scenes. That's our fantastic crew. They are a bunch of incredible volunteers and crossing the T's, and I'm not sure, was it wheels turning or gears or something. They do the stuff, and without them, Armin and I would just be assholes sitting in a room yelling. And it's not that we're not that anymore. It's not like that isn't a fair description of us still. It's just saying, like, because the crew is awesome and they do a lot of work behind the scenes, you guys get to hang out with us too. Anyway, $5 Australian coming from Sonic Shroom, saying, if they could find a magical article like the Ark and I saw it do magic, then I would consider believing. That's fair. I think if you ingested Sonic Shrooms, you might think it. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, that wouldn't be proof of anything. You might be dreaming, you might be on drugs, you might be
Well, they said consider.
hallucinating.
They said consider. They didn't say believe. They said consider.
I mean, even if they want to consider, they should just consider a magical arc. They shouldn't consider God. They just
Don't yell at the people that send us super chats, Armin. We have talked about that. No, it's a good point. No, it's a good point. No, it's a good fair point. I'm sure they'll take it. We've got 999 coming from Narcissa saying, I was leaning toward SR, but then Armin's point about it not knowing all the aspects of the gods swayed me. Red, no blue. Look, Narcissa, I appreciate you being honest, and I just want to say there are a lot of those out there in their walk with the acceptance that secular rarity is right in this instance. They struggle and they doubt, and I think that's good. You need to struggle and doubt, as long as you doubt towards me being right. We've got Anna sending.
So we have a poll actually.
About
we have a
right?
poll. Yes.
How's it going? How's it going?
So 143 people voted. 60% voted for you. 40% voted for me.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying that the people who are voting for you
biased.
Are cowards, not that
do not bring your hatred and your stereotypical bullshit against my people.
I'm not saying. I said I'm not saying that. Okay.
Okay.
Who are afraid to be honest about what they would actually do.
This is what our
against
beliefs tell us. We will be persecuted by people like you, Armin. Those of us that know the truth and are on the right side, we will be persecuted by people like you. That's just... We've got Anna sending us $5 saying, been going through some health troubles. Been going through some health troubles, and everyone keeps saying they'll pray for me, but all I needed was to see your two pretty faces. Anna, thank you so freaking much, and I am so sorry that you are going through those health troubles. I will tell you this directly. I absolutely will not pray for you, but I will think about you and I will want to hear some updates. So make sure you hang out here. We got a great community with a bunch of people that always here and sending love. So I'm sure there's a bunch of people sending love to you right now, Anna. Alan Ferguson had been a member for 6 months, sending $20. Holy crap. And AXP for the ages. So sorry I couldn't be a part today. You two really showed us how it's done. Thank you so freaking much. We have $5 Canadian from this individual that I honestly, and I mean this in all sincerity, folks, just realized 2 seconds ago is David Hacker. I just fucking realized that. So $5 Canadian from David Hacker saying, at Anna, in regards to your health issues, I'm going to quote Peter Quincy Taggart, never give up, never surrender. Fuck yes, Anna. Miranda Rinsberger sending us $5, been a member for 2 months, saying, well, SR, you did ask for callers who don't believe in critical thinking. When I saw that come through, Miranda, I started fucking laughing. That was so funny. We've got $20 Canadian. Holy shit, David Hacker. Oh my gosh, saying, I don't need the Quran to know I should feed the hungry and help those in need. Fucking right. Absolutely. You don't need a fucking book to do that. And another $10 Canadian from David Hacker saying, go crew like. Damn right. Like the stream already. If you've been here this whole fucking time and you haven't liked the stream, I don't even understand. That's so offensive. I'm just saying. That's so offensive. It'd be more offensive than pretending to worship the God that in your heart you actually do not, which is why I'm correct. But we are going to go out to Washington. We've got our next caller. What? I was trying to move.
Well, I just want to quickly say something regarding feeding the poor, because the Quran is filled with so much hate, and Muslims love to highlight the parts that is talking about taking care of the poor or the orphan, and they try to use that as a way to make it seem a lot more, humane and nice. And it's so I love, and usually I think that those parts of scripture actually make it a lot worse, because there's so much evil that is hidden under a tiny covering of attempt to demonstrate kindness for the sake of promoting this toxic ideology.
Agreed.
But I love the fact that it is one of those verses that try to make it look like Islam is for love and taking care of the poor. That verse becomes their Achilles heel, because that verse that I just read to you is devastating to the claim that Islam is from God, right? So those verses that they try to use to sell us that this is a loving, peaceful religion, exactly that verse shows that this book does not have a divine origin.
I love it. I love it, man. And that's why I was happy to have that conversation. And again, Abdur, if you're still watching, man, seriously, I mean this. I'm saying this right now. Like, I have no idea if you're out there. So, man, call us back. Like, let's talk again. Let's do it. Let's just also be honest when we do it. We've got Steve, him, out in Nebraska, gonna talk to us about the second law of information dynamics and quantum wave function. Look, all of those words are well above my head, Steve, but we are gonna try it. You're chatting with SR and Armin. What is up, man? What you got?
Hey, well, firstly, I wanted to thank you guys for the awesome job you did in handling my call a couple weeks ago regarding the wow signal of the terrestrial genetic code. And kudos to Johnny B. Angel for his prompt reference to the pandathumbs.org critique of the wow signal of the terrestrial genetic codes researchers' methodology for unraveling their supposed wow signal of the terrestrial genetic code.
Yeah.
That was amazing. You guys are amazing. But what I wanted to discuss
thank you, Steve.
If you're not really familiar with what's the collapse of the wave function, that
I have some familiarity there. Yeah, I'm just not I'm sorry, I don't mean to like cut you off or anything, Steve. I was just saying, like, I have some familiarity with that. I think Armin does too. I think we have actually had conversations, he and I, on this show in the past about it. But neither of us are like physicists or anything. But yeah, I mean, what about that is interesting you? What about that?
Understand. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not anybody that says they understand quantum mechanics. They really don't understand quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
But just to kind of simplify the gist of what that is everything kind of seems to exist in a fuzzy quantum state until it's observed, and then it materializes into a matter with
now, real quick,
so,
can I just jump in real quick for a second, Steve?
I
know I'm cutting you off a little bit, but I just want to jump in real quick because I think what you just said there about like everything matter exists in this kind of weird fuzzy quantum state until it's observed. Like, I'm kind of on board with that, man. Maybe there's some adjusting to be done, but I just want to real quick make sure when you say the word observe, are you talking about like the action of vision as done by the human eye or other existing biotic materials like sight, or are you just saying like observed in the sense of interacted with, like observation in the broadest of sense?
Being measured or interaction with another quantum state would probably count as being go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. That's good. No, I was just that's kind of where I am when I hear that term. When I hear that term in this space, I'm like, cool, that's what I think people are meaning when they say observe. Awesome. I'm glad we're on the same page. Keep going, brother.
Okay. And then the other point I mentioned was the second law of infodynamics. And what that is that was a new law of physics recently discovered by a scientist, I think, by the name of Melvin Bobson. I hope I have that right. But basically, the gist of that is that the entropy tends to decrease, and it flows in the opposite direction as in the entropy in the second law of thermodynamics, which that tends to increase over time, so it seems to go in the opposite direction. And I was just wondering if you guys thought maybe these are indicators of our universe being designed to conserve computational resources in order to be simulated by a simulation program.
Yeah, I'll kick it to Armin to see if he has anything specific. I will happily say here and show my ignorance on the second law of infodynamics. That's definitely something I will need to look further into, man. And I'm happy to do it. I always love to learn stuff. I have had discussions before about the collapse of particles into wave functions relating to simulation theory and so forth. I think all of those are making a really, really massive leap. And I don't think we have any good justification to then get to that point, because if we're accepting the conclusion of all of existence is some simulation, there's a lot of stuff that is implied there, right? Like, as far as we know, simulations just don't fucking spring up from nothing. Like some entity, some conscious agent has to create them. So then we'd have to say, okay, well, there's something that created that simulation, and there's a bunch of other stuff too. But let me throw it to Armin for a second and see if he has any more to say.
Well, so I'm looking at the second law of information dynamics. It states that entropy of an isolated information system tends to increase over time. So if it's isolated information, okay. This implies that without external intervention, information systems naturally become more disordered and less organized. So I'm also not familiar with this one. I am familiar mostly with the second law of thermodynamics that says overall entropy keeps increasing over time. And I don't know what conclusions you want to get from this law, but even with but it seems like the conclusions that you want to get might actually be the fact that entropy increases over time. We don't even need. What are you trying to? Can you explain what are you trying to get from this, or like what conclusion are you trying to get from this law that you just introduced to us? Can you, in one sentence, if you can, short?
Well, it's basically, it just seems that the way, like, I guess this was discovered when Dr. Melvin Bobson was analyzing how COVID mutated, and it just, the information states that were observed tended to go in the opposite direction as he expected, and it just kind of, and he was thinking, well, maybe it's, the universe is behaving in such a way that it wants to conserve computational resources where information tends to get condensed over time. And that, to me, is what I would expect if our universe was simulated. And, simulation, I never even considered the notion of us being simulated until the movie The Matrix came out. And about the same time, you had the philosophical argument from Nick Bostrom of simulation theory, and then The Sims came out about the same time. So, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I'm not going to seriously consider this. But then when Dr. James Gates found computer error correction code in string theory equations, that just about knocked my socks off. It's not just any particular error correction code. It's the same kind of computer code that was founded by Claude Shannon in the 1940s or 50s.
So I ask you. So wait a minute. Now I understand this law. I understand this law a little bit more. This is basically completely in line with the second law of thermodynamics. So there's nothing new here. So sorry, I completely misunderstood because I've never heard what you just said before. So I was a little confused.
It seems to go the opposite of the second law of thermodynamics.
But now I'm looking at it, it doesn't. It doesn't go the opposite.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, I understood it to be where...
based on what I'm seeing right now, it doesn't. It basically aligns with it. So here's the thing. What does the second law of thermodynamics has to do with us being in a simulation? How are you connecting these two together?
It's just information.
Yeah, so we have entropy. Entropy is increasing.
Information seems to be becoming more compressed and condensed over time, and would that not be an indication would you not expect that to happen if computational resources are being conserved to run a simulation, or maybe I'm making a little bit of a stretch here.
I do.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say. I would say, like, so we have information, and then we have when you say computation, we're talking about like stuff like intelligence or computer processing and stuff like that. So what? Let me know if I'm understanding what you're saying here. Okay, so as entropy increases, like we have like pockets of condensed energy around our universe, and it seems to want to, spread as wide as possible and becomes less, so that we have less clusters of energy in different parts of the universe. Ever since the Big Bang, the beginning of our universe was the most condensed form of energy that we had, and now it's all spreading apart, and all forms of condensed energy everywhere in the world is trying to get more spread out. Like, for example, our sun here is a form of one form of very condensed energy that is trying to spread out. So one thing that we notice is that there are different, as if we keep different systems around the world, find different ways to spread energy, and life, for example, is a very effective way of increasing entropy. So that's why you expect to find life somewhere in the universe at some point. And also at some point, in like intelligence becomes one of the most effective waves of form of life to basically increase entropy. So just with the second law of thermodynamics is completely in line with why we will eventually have life on some planets, or why that life will eventually have intelligence, right? So we have information, and when do we have the computation of that information? So the information itself and the computation of that information is two separate concepts, right? So we can understand why not just life, but intelligence itself is always, like, the theory is that intelligence is an emergent property of matter itself. Like, if you have matter for long enough, you will eventually get to intelligence. Like, it's something that it will always emerge out of matter. So this is all true. This is all in line with the second law of thermodynamics as the most effective way to increase entropy. All of this are in line. None of this all of a sudden jumps to us being in a simulation. I mean, there are other ways using mathematics to try to suggest why we're in a simulation. Like the people who say that we're in a simulation, they try to use probabilistic arguments for why, given that for every base reality, we're going to have millions and millions, given that intelligence is an emergent property of matter, for every base reality, meaning any reality that is not a metaverse or is not a silicon-based world, we're going to have millions and millions of metaverses, or millions of artificial universes. So statistically, if we had to guess, we would have to be in an artificial world rather than the base reality. That's the argument why some people make, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, for why, for example, we are likely to be in a simulation. That's the argument some people make, which is an unfalsifiable claim, but it doesn't really matter if it's true, because our reality is indistinguishable from a base reality, so it doesn't really matter if we are in one or not. But again, what does entropy have to do with us being in a simulation? That's not the argument usually people make for why we're in a simulation. Did anything I say make any sense?
Yes. I have to study the. It's something I just read. I really probably need to understand it a little better. But
it sounds dense, dude. Like, don't beat yourself up for that.
Being in a simulation. Now, a question, guys. Do you guys think that the metaverse or other virtual reality worlds would allow mainstreamed simulated beings to escape this God-forsaken simulation?
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I mean, for sure.
This is all just.
Yeah.
This is all just it doesn't. Here, don't go down this route, Steve. This is going to make you. This is going to get you to an existential crisis. This is going to keep you up at night, and it's not going to serve any purpose. It's not going to change your life in any meaningful way. Okay. There's no way to prove that we're in a simulation. There's no way to disprove. So if it's going to make you question the meaning of life or how important life is to you, then if you're doing it for fun and it's interesting, do it. But you have to understand this is an unfalsifiable claim. And at the end of the day, you have to be pragmatic about your life. The reality that you're experiencing is indistinguishable from a reality that is not in a simulation. And that's all that should matter to you. Why does it matter if we're in a simulation, if your reality, your experience with your reality is exactly as if it's the base reality? Why would that matter to you?
That you're exactly correct in that. I mean, if we're in an simulation indistinguishable from a base reality, then it doesn't matter, what. So you're correct about that. Now, with the string theory, what do you think about the error correction codes in string theory? String theory, and that's not proven to be true, but if it were true, a lot of physicists believe that it is true. Then what do you think about there being this error correction code in string theory? Is that kind of peculiar or kind of odd? Doesn't that seem to indicate that we're
it's not that Armin and I don't necessarily find this topic interesting, right? Like I know I definitely do. Like I think it's cool, right? And again, with infodynamics specifically, the second law of infodynamics, I know that I am ignorant and I need to look further into this, man. And maybe there's something out there that when I read it, I'll just be like, holy shit, Steve was totally fucking right. But for me, I think the big problem when we do this whole, okay, well, that now we're in a simulation is just the logical construction of it, and in and of itself seems to me like it's flawed. We're reaching a conclusion that isn't anywhere in our premises, man. Like at no point in time did we go, well, it would have to be a simulation if X, Y, and Z are true. We find out that X, Y, and Z are true. Therefore, we're in a simulation, man. We don't have that crucial detail of, if we find this out, that shows us it's a simulation. So stuff to look into, man. Interesting as all hell. Let's keep looking into it. But currently, I think we're coming to a conclusion that just isn't warranted by the data.
I think we'll have to wait in time to see how realistic these simulations get. But
absolutely,
I think and it's not far off. But right now, we just don't know.
Yeah, and I agree. I think in the future we will most likely get a better understanding that will lead us to either accepting this understanding more or rejecting it, more strongly. You brought up string theory, and like a good handful of years ago, man, like when string theory first started getting out there and people were all of a sudden everybody got real hot about it for a minute, man. Everybody was like, fuck yeah, man, that's it. We figured it out. And then a few more years passed, and then a bunch of people came up and were like, no, actually, there's really no good basis to believe any of this, and we should push back on this. This is just us wasting our time and spinning our wheels. So yeah, it's good that we have these disagreements in science. It's not good that we take these newly found understandings of the world around us and then try to apply it to all of these conclusions that aren't necessarily warranted by the data, man. And again, I don't think that's malicious. I don't think that's something we do purposefully, like as assholes or anything. I think honestly, it's something we do as people. Like when we just find something out and it seems to kind of fit in this one box, it's like, oh yeah, maybe that does actually fit in that box. Fuck yeah, it's the whole fucking box. But again, ultimately, you were right, man. Time will tell on this. Go.
I don't think time will. I don't think time will. I don't think there's anything. No, I don't think that there's anything that we're going to discover that will resolve this. There's two things that people point out is like quantum physics, like string theory. I don't think there's anything that you're going to find in our particles that shows that we're in a simulation. Anything that it seems like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Could this be because we're in a simulation? It could easily be because of something else. So nothing in quantum physics is going to resolve this question. And no, with regards to us creating metaverses, I already can tell you what's going to happen in the future. I already know. Like you're like, oh, what if we create realities that is going to be indistinguishable for our reality, and we can't tell the difference? Then that's going to show that we're probably in a simulation ourselves. Well, you don't have to wait. We are going to get to a point where we create virtual realities. Like we already know that that's going to happen. So why do we have to wait to let's wait and see if we could create that. Well, I will tell you, we are going to create that. So there's nothing that is good. We are going to come up with. There's no additional information that is going to resolve this. This is you're going to have to live with the fact that you don't know this. Okay, there is no additional information or discoveries in the future that is going to resolve this. Just make your peace with it.
Do you think we could, and Steve, we're going to let you go, actually. I'm just going to ask Armin one more question and poke back on him, but thank you so much, brother. This was really good.
Yeah, you guys are freaking awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Seriously, Steve, we appreciate it. And even though there's stuff that we need to learn further on it, it's still good to have it brought up, I think. But okay, Armin, real quick. I want to ask you something on what you just said. Do you think there's anything as we delve further into physics, quantum physics, and deeper understandings in that, do you think there's anything that could rule out, like definitively, that we're in a simulation? Do you think we could learn anything that's just like says to us, okay, because this fact of nature? Okay, all right, well, that's fine.
Obviously not, because anything that you discover could be the information that is anything you discover. Right. That shows that we're not in a simulation could be an information that the simulation is feeding to you. Obviously, how could you? How could you go around
so
it?
It's just a claim that you're just saying the claim in and of itself is unfalsifiable, and that
it's unfalsifiable.
Okay, well that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We had some good chats. I believe based on the poll that we ran, that the audience made the correct decision and said that I was right in our disagreement earlier. But that's okay. It's neither here nor there. And the reason I'm saying that it's neither here nor there.
I'm surprised that me insulting the audience did not change the balance.
You know what? Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. I just think, and I think that's a point for me. Like, fear isn't that great of a motivator. I'm just saying, I'm right on this. Folks,
I thought I would lose support before I did it. It's still a solid. I have a solid 40%. That does not change.
That's good. It's not bad. It's not bad, honestly. Well, folks, thank you so freaking much for hanging out with us. Whether you are hanging out with us live right now and chatting in the comment section below, or if you are here after the stream and you're having fun and just kind of getting through your day, we really, really appreciate you. Don't forget that the prompt for this week for the Share Your Experience is create the next God. Okay, so get out your drawing pads and your wacky scribble whatevers you need and create our God, and then get your answer in the comments, and make sure to check out at the beginning of next week's episode because your answer might be read. Seriously, wonderful, wonderful crew. Thank you so much for putting up with us. Can you bring up our awesome backup host? We have every week somebody hanging out with us behind the scenes, making sure that in case Armin and I get the axe during the show for the things we say and do, that they can come in and keep the ship upright. So Richard, I am happy that you are here, brother. And I hope you had a good time hanging out. I hope it was a good show for you. I have something I have to tell you. Okay. Well, Armin does, actually. Armin has something he has to tell us, both of us. We recently were admonished very, very directly and critically, I think, Richard. And I'd like your response on this. Armin, do you see in the private chat there, could you read out this email that we got the other day?
Ooh, okay. Yes. Now I see it. I was right. Oh, wow. Okay. Holy crap. So you got an email saying, hey, you guys and gals, this is now getting out of hand. Many of your hosts, Secular Rarity and Richard as well. Okay. Being the most recent example, are far too enamored with the sound of their own voice. Oh my God. Nobody wants to hear your hosts go on monologue after monologue, not pausing to what whether the caller has heard or understood what's being said. This is not a dialogue, but a diatribe. Old host was not perfect, but by Zeus, these guys need to, sorry, this is so small, need to take some lessons in conversation. Engage the call. Okay, what did you guys do?
I don't know.
This is about which call?
Yeah,
this
is
is
about
the last time somebody said that was so small so many times was my wife.
What do you think? What do you think, Richard? Do you think this is valid criticism? I bring you on for the last few minutes, and the first thing you do is make a dick joke, man. What do you think, man? What do you think, dude? Why are you preaching at people?
I'm quite hurt about this, and I'll tell you why I'm quite hurt about this. I'm quite hurt about this because on said episode where myself and SR worked together, I didn't get a fucking word in edgeways because he was talking all the time. Then I've just got.
So you agree with the caller? So you agree with the caller? Elliot doesn't let anyone speak.
Elliot just talks and talks and talks and talks. I don't understand why I'm getting grief for this.
So you should tell me. The only problem with that email was that they were blaming you as well. But if it was directed only at Elliot, then you would be okay with this.
And then that would have been perfectly fine, yes.
I feel less good about bringing you on here, Richard. When I started this, when I had this idea at the beginning, I was like, this will be real fun, and now I'm just not feeling it anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, can we get rid of him? Can we go back to the two up there? I just want to kill. Yeah, there we go. No, seriously, thank you so much, Richard. Richard is a super, super active member of this community. He is the producer over on Talk Heathen, which happens every Sunday right before AXP at 1 p.m. Central Time. So go check it out. And if you missed the episode with Richard Gilliver and Sidney Davis Jr. earlier today, you are going to want to see it. Folks, thank you so much. Seriously, this was lots of fun. We always have fun when we are here. And just remember, every single Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, come here, hang out with us. Won't always be me and Armin, but there are a lot of wonderful hosts, and we hope you come back for another one. Seriously, guys, get out there. Go be blasphemous. Go be heathenous. And whatever you do, don't pretend to worship a shit god, even if it's been proven to you that it exists. Suck it, Armin. See you guys.
I should make an apology video, I think, right? For the calling the audience cowards. No, back home. I don't know if I'm going to get invited back to the school after calling people cowards.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.